Hello, fellow toolboxers. Welcome to episode number 373 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox podcast. We're here with a great episode. We're interviewing a great immigration lawyer, been doing it for a long time, Daniel Berger. I'm discussing an article he did for the magazine that talks about DACA students who leave and may be able to get D3 waivers and the like, as well as how his business developed and what he's doing right now. Very interesting for those who've been in the game. I find these interviews really just gives you perspective on how things work when it comes to the future of law practice, as well as the legal stuff that we go through. So it should be a fun one. So I want to thank Dan for coming on the show. Before I start, I want to let everyone know that our E2 session of training, I've been talking about this for the last couple of months. This is December we started it. I'm going to take a pause on this because we're going to start introducing an L1 and NIW seminars. These are 1 hour sessions where it's a small group, live only, not recorded, where we go over a case and just talk openly about it, dissect it, and really give you a heads up on how to practice in this area. It's very powerful for lawyers only. It's not just for anybody who could join. And the E2 session, we did change the status, constant processing. The last one's coming up April 17th. It's a Thursday and at 10 a.m. Pacific. That's the time usually I pick when I do these. But at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, $300. If you're interested, email me ASAP because we're going to fill that up and stop this E2 so we can make room for the L1 other stuff. I only have like 1 day a month to do it. Potentially, probably the L1 course will be taught by someone else, but I'll be helping manage that. So that's a lot of work there too. And so get it while you can. E2 visas. This is a hot area you want to get into. It's lucrative and interesting and all that kind of stuff. So you actually see a case how it's done. Whether you're new at it or you've been doing it, you always pick up different things on how other people do it. So it's very, very much worth it. The community page where we post a lot of our stuff is on the website called Circle.so. It's people are getting tired of Facebook on problems that it has. It was a way of transferring that stuff that we do there in the communication on the groups to a private page that's more control under our control. So if you want to join your lawyer, just send me your information, your bar information, your name, and we can add you there. Hours and hours of free CLEs, white label content, all this kind of stuff to help you. And if you're getting involved in the marriage green card course, I have 15 plus hours of training on the subject of marriage green cards, one-on-one session training too, as well as video sessions to get your practice up and running. That's hosted on that site that gets released. So I also want to lastly, kind of in the combo, mention the magazine. The latest issue is out. Magazine issue number 8. If you go to iltbox.com or immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com on the magazine link, you could see it. But we're preparing to launch number 9, hopefully this week. I was hopefully doing it in March, but I got super busy. The Trump situation has got me swamped with work, just like constant consultations and stuff like that. But I want to get that out. But we're preparing for issue number 10. As 8 is out, 9 is coming out next week. We got to start prepping for 10. So if you're a lawyer and you have some interesting topic, I could teach fellow colleagues in the bar about how to be a better immigration attorney, the business side, the legal side. That's helpful. Let me know. Just send the title of the article so we see what it is and we kind of break it down. Citations aren't necessary, but it's just something very practical to help people. So please, if you want to get your name out there and show your experience and what you know, hit me up, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. I do want to thank the sponsor of both this podcast and the last issue of the magazine, Tech. INS Zoom, obviously a software you're all aware of. They're very famous and one of the longest lasting software companies in the business. Are you tired of sinking your most valuable asset into tedious data entry? Then it's high time to streamline your immigration process with Tech, INS Zoom, the leading immigration case management software trusted by top law firms and corporations worldwide. Tech's INS Zoom helps you manage cases, track deadlines, and automate workflows so you can focus on what matters most to your clients. But that's not all. Tech's INS Zoom just launched GovNotice IDP, a revolutionary AI-powered tool that automatically extracts critical information from your government notices and receipts. No more manual entry, errors, or headaches. Instead of traditional, highly time-consuming manual entry of USCIS notice data, GovNotice IDP automates the entire process, ensuring a faster, more error-free experience. Legal teams can upload batches of receipts in bulk with automated classifications and case linking, reducing processing time significantly. This way, you can be highly accurate what you do with hundreds of notices processed per day. You have the option of email notifications for internal and external stakeholders, and it includes USI's receipt notices, including premium processing and approval notices. With GovNotice IDP, you can process and manage your cases faster and more efficiently than ever before. Ready to elevate your immigration practice to the next level? Learn more at hrc.mitratech.com/toolbox. Again, that's hrc.mitratech.com/toolbox. If you're going to check it out, going to that link would be very helpful for the show as well. So again, if you're interested in having been published, it's hard to get published and probably come on the show. We do a podcast like Dan, who's this interview right now, he published in the last issue of the magazine. And we got to get to know him more through these videos. So it's great for your business, you know, notoriety, all that kind of stuff. We're happy to share all this kind of stuff to make you more successful. Having said all that, let's get the show started. None of the information provided here is intended as individual legal guidance, but you all know that already. Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, John. Great to be here.
Well, let's start a little about your background. How did you get into immigration law, and then what kind of practice do you have?
Well, thanks. So I think, like probably other people I was inspired by Steve Allaire, who's a professor at Cornell. He was my mentor, and I ended up meeting him even before I went to law school or thought about applying to law school. My wife was a grad student at Cornell in biology. I was a history major. What do you do with a history degree? So I decided for a year I would teach high school history and government. Had some international students, went to the local immigration lawyer who turned out to be, for those who don't know him, is a real pioneer in the field. And I started working for him as a research assistant before I went to law school and just got hooked. I loved the academic part of it. And I also loved just going down to his, excuse me, small firm in Ithaca and being part of conversations with the other attorneys about interesting cases and interesting strategies.
Wonderful. And so you went to law school, and then you graduated. You started immigration law immediately. Did you start your own firm, or did you work for him or someone else?
So I started. After I graduated, I did a state court clerkship for a year, mostly doing mediation, which was interesting. And then I ended up joining a small firm in Northampton, Massachusetts, and ran that firm for about 25 years. And just recently,
Oh,
I we closed down. I was really looking to be an employee, not a small business owner anymore. And now I'm an employee. I'm a partner at Green and Spiegel and running an academic medical team, and also part time at Cornell Law School, running a clinic that we can talk about a little bit later.
definitely. So that small business aspect is something that I concur with you. It's the hardest part is I enjoy the immigration, running the small business, not as much. What so Green Spiegel? We've had the managing partner on the show, Jonathan. Talked to
Road,
Jonathan.
Road,
Last
yeah.
yeah. But he's a great guy. So their firm has, I guess, a lot of different. Ksenia Myrova joined as well. So it's really growing, and it's Pennsylvania based, but you got branches essentially all across the country, and also the Canadian parent company.
That's right. That's right. And one of the things I like about it is it's small enough to be personal, but I don't sound like a used car salesman, but it's small enough to be personal, but also big enough that we do have experts in different fields. We have
Yeah.
Ksenia, who's a sports immigration person. I have the academic medical team. There's an H-2B team, a litigation team. There's a little bit of everything, and I like that because we can all support each other.
Well, what do you mean by academic medical team? Is that like for H-1Bs for nurses or EB-2s for nurses, or like they have a waiver of the perm thing, but like or NIWs? What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means that our clients are academic and medical institutions, so nonprofit hospitals, academic medical centers, colleges, universities, and we do whatever they need. So part of that is, the bread and butter, H-1Bs, green cards for faculty or doctors. But especially nowadays, colleges and universities need all sorts of support. So I have been going around to most of the campuses that we work with and having town halls to talk about immigration, to talk about the potential travel ban, registration requirement, social media, and so forth. And then we do a lot of individual consultations with people with fragile immigration status, whether it's asylum pending or DACA or parole. And last, we try to help talk about talk within the university about policy, whether it's ICE visits or
Yeah.
whether to sponsor H-1Bs. So in the end, our client is the university ecosystem.
Interesting. Do you guys deal with like Conrad waivers? Does that come up as well?
We do, yeah, yeah, in the medical immigration context.
So there's only 30 of those per state. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah, which is really not a lot. I think a few years. So just for your listeners, which is probably a pretty sophisticated group, but the Conrad waiver is a way in which international physicians can can earn the right to stay here by spending 3 years working in a medically underserved area. Each state can recommend 30 doctors. So, as you can imagine, California and New York use up their 30 pretty quickly. In Vermont, there's always spots. But a few years ago, during the pandemic, the federal HHS started a program for primary care where there are an unlimited number of waivers. So that has helped ease some of the strain.
Yeah, it's just because it's a complicated thing to do. It's not an easy kind of the counter has a lot of nuances, but you're not going to be getting these cases all the time because of the numerical limitation unless you like get all these states. So it's such a weird program. But it exists. Hopefully, it could increase the numbers, but that hasn't happened at all. So
No, not for decades.
no.
Changes in immigration law are not easy.
So you practice, and you also have the clinic, which is a famous clinic for a lot of people in the immigration space. Can you tell us more about the work you do at the clinic at the university?
Sure. So the big picture is that immigration's a game of categories, and what we wanted to do at this clinic was to try to think about to make sure that every category was being considered for people in fragile immigration status. So there are humanitarian immigration categories, there are family-based categories, and there are employment-based categories. A lot of folks who are, let's say, DACA or undocumented, may just not know about some of the employment-based categories. A lot
Yeah.
of the really good nonprofits that are out there supporting DACA individuals might not necessarily think about an H-1B or a labor certification or things like that. On the flip side, a lot of the really good employment-based law firms don't always know what to do with somebody with DACA. So we wanted to fill that gap. We ended up getting a pretty sizable grant. It was over $1 million from a foundation in San Francisco to do a pilot project to see to do individual consultations. We've done over 600 so far with DACA individuals in the Bay Area, and to look for patterns and to try to be available to talk to them and to their employers, and trying to be the catalyst for employer sponsorship as a way of moving them into status.
Is it like the best scenario where they got DACA before they're 18 and a half, so they don't have a 3 year, 10-year bar? And then that's if they get DACA AP, potentially child visa appointment to come back. Is that like the ideal situation?
That is, if people don't have unlawful presence, is since the 90s has been a huge challenge, and anybody who doesn't have that is it's much easier. DACA is not a status, so they can't change or adjust status in the U.S., but they can travel and come back in status.
And as of recording of this, people with DACA AP are traveling. I saw this news coming out. It's March 25th right now by even green card holders being hassled at the airport. But it seems like things are still happening as normal. Some of the news reports that eventually come out for the people that are having issues at the border, it's stuff I'd seen before where they have stuff on their phone or something like that. But obviously, it's getting worse. Or even though some of it might be hype, but it's a very scary situation with the reports coming of try to crack down on immigration lawyers. What do you am I making it lightly, or have you seen other stuff where it was just completely unfair at CBP not letting people in?
So I always get nervous. I don't want to jinx anything, but
Yeah,
so far it is working. We haven't. I think we're more cautious about who we send abroad.
yeah,
So in the past, people with DACA AP who had a final order, or who had a criminal record that had been disclosed in the course of the DACA application, um, would travel, and I hadn't seen any problems before. That makes me more nervous now.
yeah,
But
for
for
sure, for
folks
sure.
who um, don't have any red flags, no open immigration court case, not even an admin closed case,
Yeah,
or who don't have any criminal issues, I think have been able to travel. What we do is that there's a real lead time, and you can probably imagine, like, if I talk to somebody and then they talk to their employer, and then that employer considers filing an H-1B, and then they actually file it and get it approved, we're talking about months at least. So
yeah.
right now, while things are working, we are having these conversations and moving forward. But we do have a very serious conversation with everybody, literally a couple days before they travel, and just say, is anything new? Does this still make
Yeah.
sense? And we try to be open with the employer and say, this may happen. Like, you may end up paying for an H-1B, and we may decide that it's not safe to travel at the end,
Mhm.
just because everything's uncertain right now.
And the timing of the travel permission becomes a problem, the advanced parole, because it takes, sometimes we're submitting them for cases. It might take 6 or 9 months to get approved. And once it is, sometimes it's only valid for 2 or 3 months. So getting it within the exact window of time could always be like this thing works like where the interview is going to happen. Some embassies might be backed up for interviews. I mean, they're getting back to normal for the most part, but it's just like so many variables in this. But they are statistically there's people that it could change their lives. Like they come back with H-1B and then they can do perm. There's 245K waivers and stuff. So it could really it's a miracle for a very select few, but it really is a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, and this is why we put together this team. I mean, some law firms, I think yours have a mix of people who understand all the different areas of immigration law. Mine does, but on our team at Cornell, we have 7 lawyers who each have different expertise, and so we really can get a team looking at each case with experts on humanitarian, family, and employment based immigration. I think the other thing, John, that I just wanted to flag is that although our grant is focused on DACA individuals in the Bay Area, these strategies can work for a lot of people. I heard a statistic recently, and I think this is true, that there are 6 million people who are in the US with work cards who might lose them. And so that could be
Wow.
people with asylum pending, maybe a U visa pending where they haven't gotten that far. We don't know what the administration might do there. DACA, parole, TPS. There are a lot of people with work cards right now, but the underlying basis of that work cards is not solid. So a lot of the strategies we're thinking about for employer sponsorship could be helpful for for any of these folks potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just the AP stuff that's getting taken away, TPS, and in the UVs, as the delays in getting anything done is such a mess. It puts people in such a weird spot. But I'm glad these officers are out there. So I appreciate writing the article in the issue number 8 of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Magazine. It was actually a group effort that you're kind of put, but we always like to have one author just to be able to do it. But your team is wonderful what they do. If people wanted to send clients to the clinic, what's the best person to contact, websites to go to? What's the best way for them to do that?
So there's a longer Cornell website, but the simple one is path2papers.org. Path, the PATH, the number 2, papers.org. That takes you to our website. We have resources. We update it. We have practice advisories about D3 waivers. We have a video from Microsoft talking about how they, as an employer, are supporting their DACA employees. And then there is also a consultation request for employers and employees. At the moment, our grant is only covering Northern California, but we hope to do more.
Now, I should probably ask. So the D3 waiver, that's a 212 D3 waiver. Is that the Haranka non-immigrant visa waiver?
That's right.
So you have to get that through the embassy. Does the embassy first have to deny the case first, and then you file for the NIV waiver?
They don't necessarily need to deny it, but what happens is, so let's say I have unlawful presence. I got DACA over the age of 18. I have an H-1B approved. I travel to a U.S. consulate. Then when I show up, the consular officer will send a request to CBP, the Admissibility Review Office, recommending the waiver. Now, I think I think in general, when you think about DACA individuals, it's really not possible to get DACA with any kind of significant criminal issue. So the DACA
Yeah.
population does pretty well on the D3 waiver analysis. If Haranka is the old case that covers this, but the big picture of D3 is the benefit of letting this person in outweighing the risk of letting this person in. And for most DACA individuals, the risk is zero and the benefit is high, so it's almost a no-brainer. And so what happens is the consular officer will recommend the waiver to ARO. ARO makes the final decision on the waiver, then sends an authorization to issue a visa back to the consular officer, and the consular officer can issue the visa.
Perfect. So, I mean, and that's kind of 8 or 9 months for that process to go through. Hopefully, it'll get faster and stuff. But
Yeah. Well, John, really quickly, there is FAM guidance now that is focused on graduates of U.S. colleges and
oh, true.
universities that
Yeah.
says that suggests that consular officers should expedite. So we're seeing, again, don't want to jinx anything, but we're seeing days or weeks rather than months or years on
Wow,
these.
that's a big deal, and that was in the article too. So, yeah, citing the foreign affairs manual is gonna be really key for this stuff to get it done. But that's incredible because, yeah, the NIV waiver. One thing I realize is I haven't filed one myself, and probably most of the immigration bar hasn't filed NIV waivers. I frequently run into people who have never heard of it, even. But it's such an important tool in your toolbox to have to do these waivers. A lot of people I've seen in the Rome district for AILA that are overseas. They handle a lot of this stuff, but it's a really powerful waiver that anyone, essentially any non-immigrant could do. For, I mean, the Haranka story itself was the case that it's based on, was like a person who was caught with prostitution and got the waiver. So I've had colleagues tell me they've had one guy was a big time drug dealer, and then he cleaned his ways, became CEO of a company, and he wasn't even able to get a waiver. So it's pretty incredible what you could do with it. But the delay was annoying. But yeah, if they're getting this special, foreign affairs manual update, it's a really good thing to try out.
Yeah, definitely. It's another tool in the toolbox. Like there's no magic formula for you, as you know,
Yeah.
for any of our clients. It's only Congress can kind of make a one size fits all, but we can try to evaluate every option for each person.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, Dan. I really appreciate it, and happy to have you in the magazine again when you have any updates or changes. Thanks for coming on.
Will do. Appreciate it, John. Take care.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thanks for listening. That was a good session that we had talking about the practice. His firm is really interesting, Green and Spiegel. It's a multinational firm, and I've worked with them in the past, and I know the people in charge. So it's a great organization. They partner up people too. So if you sometimes need lawsuits, you send them. If there's certain things that they might be better at, because they're in this middle, like, big firm between a big firm and a middle firm. So it has unique aspects. It's really powerful to be providing great service to clients and people in need of immigration services. Before we end, I want to remind people, if you're interested in the marriage green card course, really a family green card course, the consular processing, 212 review, adjustment of status, affidavit support, sample contract, how I run my office, get all this insider kind of information to get your stuff up and running. Either join the immigration practice, come better at your practice. Email me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, and we can schedule a time. If you're interested in our final session of the E2 course for a while, to learn E2 visas in 1 hour, that's a pretty powerful thing. Just again, email me, info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com, and I'll send you the information. Have a good one.